Hey, yo, what's up? This is Ice-T representing for Hype Magazine. Stop playing.
Hey, what's good, everybody? Welcome to another live session with the Hype Magazine. I'm your editor-in-chief, Jerry Doby, and this morning I got the great pleasure of having a young lion that some of you may know from reality TV, but those who've been doing business outside of the camera know him as a magnificent branding and marketing maven by the name of LaVon Lewis. And he and his company, Connect Branding, have been responsible for some amazing moves by international brands from family entities like SeaWorld. Now, SeaWorld, bro, that's iconic. I come up on
Sure.
SeaWorld, Shamu, the killer whale and all that, right?
Classics,
Uh,
right?
AT&T. So we're talking about technology companies, communications company, AT&T, big box companies, Walmart, Home Depot, more than what you've seen from the editors on the screen. This brother is a polymath. We'll get into that in a little while. LaVon Lewis, welcome, my brother.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate that intro. Thank you.
I'll try to do a little something. I had a longer one written out, but then I just said, you know what? Let's go off the dome. The rappers do it all the time.
I
And
love it. It's more authentic that way, right?
yeah, you have enough benchmarks in your career that hell, just the top three will do it. Winner of more than 50 awards through his company, including from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. So we got Minority Tech Company of the Year and Entrepreneur of the Year.
True.
He's written several books that have changed the way the game is played. Based in Atlanta. I'm not going to tell him about it. You tell him about it. LaVon Lewis, Connect Branding, you and your partner, you guys kicked it off at age 19, so been an entrepreneur from the beginning. Now, did you come from a family of entrepreneurs? Tell me about the early LaVon Lewis.
No, I'm originally from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So I live in Atlanta now. No entrepreneurs in my family, actually the first one to go to college.
Hmm.
And the way I got to college, I realized that, hey, I don't have a college fund. So I got to do something about this. I got to get up out of here, do something different. And I used to be able to draw as well as I played the drums since I was in the sixth grade. And so what I decided to do my last 2 years of high school, every day, I practiced, I drew and completed a picture every day and got myself in a contest where I was rated top 5 artists in Alabama and top 5 scholarships in drums at the same time. That paid my way into college, not realizing that people would pay for that gift. I got to college at 19, did not want to be a business owner. People say, hey, let me buy that piece of art that you drew. Let me buy this or that. Met my business partner, evolved into the business that you see today.
What an amazing story, being ready for the opportunity. And
Right.
so this conversation, not only are we going to talk about, you know, the books, you've been betrayed, so now what,
Mm-hmm.
and your earlier work, but also as a career trajectory for those who say, oh, I want to be the artist. I want to be in front of the camera. We're talking to people behind the camera. LaVon is a creative director uh, and decides and guides the branding that you see, whether it's, and excuse me for just using this, but I grew up with
Mm-hmm.
Del Monte, but how you see the Jolly Green Giant on the Green Bean commercial, how it's presented, the creative director, if I have it right, translates the vision of the client into something that's digestible by the audience and gives them the call of action and motivates them to move and engage with that product.
Right. Yeah, I love that definition. I think a good, as one of the co-founders of our company, I do handle the creative side. So I would describe a creative director as a person that you have to be good creatively, obviously, right? But you have to be good at ideation. You have to be good at understanding sales, buyer behavior, the customer. I think for me, the first step of, I call it design thinking. The first step is empathy. So anytime I deal with a client, SeaWorld, or anybody like that, I'll look at, all right, what is this customer asking us to do? And then their customer, how should they feel when they see this product? What attracts them? What gets them locked in to be a loyal client? And so I think a good creative director understands business, sales, buyer behavior, creative, as well as team building. And through that, he can guide the creative because all of those details govern his decisions with the brand. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes perfect sense. I oversimplified it, and
No.
I no. To have it explained from the subject matter expert to me is more valuable. I could, because I'm like on the outside looking in, like the majority of the audience going, well, what does a creative director really do? How do they engage with the product? And how does that affect me, at the
Right.
end? We're talking
Right.
about in the end, companies are looking for conversions.
Yeah.
So,
And I would tell you this, as a professional, I just always wanted to be diverse, so I'm good at design. I can, design a lot of things for brand, but I wanted to understand business, sales, business development, the customer, and just be multifaceted as a creator. So that's where I focus.
pay attention to your statistics class, pay attention to your interpersonal communications classes, pay attention to your critical thinking classes, because you're dissecting a lot of stuff and then, or reverse engineering things to say, okay, this is our process. This is how we're going to mind map this out to the customer, the end user, right?
Sure.
Beautiful thing. All right. Now I know you didn't want to talk about all that, but for me, it's important that our young audience have some understandings of some different career trajectories. Well, I don't know why I'm taking that class. I don't want to go to the art class, or I don't want to go to, the diversified thinking class, or however it may be. We're talking about gaining not only technical skills, but soft skills, analytical skills to execute a plan.
True. That's
It
true.
might be somebody else's plan. They could think of it, but may not be able to execute it. And you're the expert who can make it happen. Creative director is one of those wide-ranging careers, because not only don't they have creative directors for like the big stadium shows and the big touring artists and things like that, right?
I'll tell you all movies, TV shows, concerts, the Super Bowl. And just to give everyone an example, that the creative director of the Super Bowl may say, hey, we're going to bring Atlanta to Las Vegas because of Usher, and everything about the direction, the HBCU bands, the dancing, the music, the colors, that's creative direction that was guided by a person understanding all sides of what's going on. And so it's a fun thing, but you have to juggle a lot.
Okay, so that leads me back to your earlier book. What is it? Today is a great day for a wow image.
Mm-hmm.
So is that book describing how you create the images, the public perception, and the media messages for?
Yeah, definitely. It was written at a different time too, because I was actually, in my late 20s at that time. And it just described about how I approach branding. So when I say today is a great day for a wow image, is really what's the psychology behind the colors you use, the type of logo you choose, select, the fonts you use, the photography. People think these are personal decisions. These are business decisions.
Mhm.
So a lot of people don't know Victoria's Secret was started by a man. I would guess his favorite color wasn't pink, right? But he knew that pink and black and the level in which he's trying to take it would attract the audience that he wants. And so these are business decisions, they're not personal. And so that's what the book is about. And it walks from brand identity, color, web, all of the above.
Amazing. There you go. Y'all pay attention. I'm just saying it's an option. Now, he's written that book. Should dig into it. Today is a great day for a wow image. For those of us who are struggling to create our personal brands and maybe suffering from imposter syndrome, taking a look in that full-length mirror and saying, you know what, it's okay that I'm great. I've worked hard to be there, and I should not hide myself. Go ahead and step to the forefront. Today is a great day for a wow image. I like that. Great, metaphor for you rappers. I know, I already know. All right. So you've had an amazing entrepreneurial career, over 2 decades in the business, well respected in business. You've handled a lot of Fortune 500 companies and their identities. Then, of course, you got hooked up through Queen's Court with Evelyn Lozada, and that got you onto the Basketball Wives situation. And then, as people saw who were fans of the franchise, having a breakup is already hard, but having everybody, they cat, uncle, and dog trying to be up in your business and not understand what's going on really behind closed doors because of the editing cuts, and they're worried about ratings as opposed to very difficult to deal with a standard breakup. Having it televised, being a celebrity and a business person creates some new challenges, and you have to figure out, okay, where do I go from here? And so you've been betrayed. So now what is the upcoming book that you're discussing feeling broken and how to deal with that? Some of the conversations that men, especially in the Black men,
True.
We don't necessarily share. A lot of us aren't, what do they call it? Emotionally intelligent. Is that the new term?
Yeah. Or available.
Or emotionally available to other brothers to allow them to get that stuff off their chest and work through it.
Right.
So you've been betrayed. So now what? Talk to me about it and how you decided you were going to trust the world with some of your innermost feelings, thought.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked it that way. I mean, it was definitely, I'm used to talking and speaking about business. I've talked on literally hundreds of stages about branding and business, and I wrote the book. But this was the first one where I felt like I owed something, to the world. A lot of people may think this book is about my last relationship. It actually isn't, right? It's about me realizing the person that I am today, how I got there, right? And it's to men and women as well. And so when you look at the title of the book, I realized even from birth that I was betrayed. And then in most relationships, as we all are, about 70% of people are betrayed in their life if you look up the stats of it. And it's things we may not recognize every day. It's things like gaslighting. It's things like dishonesty. It's loyalty. It's displaying information publicly that you discuss privately. It's all these kind of things, right? So I figured, I think that's my story to tell and what I owe to the world. I get a lot of commentary and compliments about me on Queen's Court. And a lot of people say, they walked up to me, hey, tell me how you become this way, or how are you so calm or poised or nice or forgiving. So I'm like, let me write this book to let them know it's not just I was born that way. It's a decision, right? And so I chose a topic that everybody can relate to, even when you look at the chapter titles. It's titles that everybody relates to. I tell my personal stories and at the top of every chapter, and I take those stories and I teach lessons and tell people how I came out of it non-toxic, pure, nice, thoughtful, and these things. And I just think it's healthy for America.
Okay. So since this is kind of a review of how you navigated the maze of life and balance and processing problems. In school, we'll call that your academic analysis.
Yes.
Of the SWOT, right? So not SWAT, SWAT. I heard you back there. It's SWOT.
OT.
Thank
SWOT
you.
analysis.
Yeah. So for me, then could you please say or tell me from the inside looking out versus the beginning of that journey to today, how do you see LaVon Lewis?
Hmm. I see a person that has standed the test of time because, like everybody, I just told you the challenge of starting my business. If things look easy, or when people saw me on Queen's Court, the challenges of that. So I'm a guy that just stands the test of time, and I'll fight for my ability to just be who I think I should show up being. So even when you look at like Queen's Court, I was literally sitting at my desk working on the things that you mentioned at the top of the call one day. And I received a DM that says, "Hey, we have this show, 3 celebrity women, 21 guys. Are you interested?" I thought it was a scam. I literally replied back to the DM, "This is a scam. It isn't real." And they came back and they called me. 4 months of interviews, here I am. And so even with that, when you're talking about just kind of enduring and standing the test of time, I just challenged myself. I'm like, I'm pretty introverted, not shy. I'm pretty direct, bold, but I'm introverted. And I felt like this would be a great challenge. Didn't believe it would even work, to be honest.
Mm.
And, getting on TV, experiencing, working with Will Packer, which was amazing. I think the editing and everything was to the T of what reality was. Meeting all of the women, meeting Evelyn, all these different pieces. It was all a very, very cool thing. But, it comes with its challenges of being private and then being public and then breaking up public. And then even in my early years, I was married 15 years, and prior to now, before the show, I was single for about 5 or 6 before the show. And so all of that and running a business, and I'm a father, it comes with its challenges. So, oh my God, I just stand the test of time. Every time I get hit, I get back up. I know it was a funny thing. People don't know they do a psych test before you go on these shows. I don't know if you realize that.
No, didn't know.
And so they looked at about 600 questions. You get on a Zoom call and they say, "Okay, we have these questions." You're thinking it's 50, 20 or 50 questions. And these people have analyzed every reality star you've ever seen for the last 27 years or so.
Mhm.
And so I go through these 600 questions. The next day they say, "Hey, the doctor will be on after he analyzes it." And his report said this. It said what I was about to tell you. He was like, "Where did they find you?" I was like, "They DM me." I was like, "Why did you ask me that?" And he was like, "Well, you seem like a person that when you get hit, you get up quickly. You're very optimistic. You're honest. You're direct. I just haven't seen all of these things in one person. You're poised. You're smart." And I'm like, "The report told you that? That's what the purpose of 600 questions are, because a lot of them are repeated to make sure that you're keeping it honest." And so I bring up that report to say, yeah, I'm just an everyday guy. I work hard. I try to treat people right. I'm honest. And when I get hit, when I get treated wrong, when I get betrayed, I look at it and I try to be accountable to myself. I try to understand what the other person did. I try to analyze if I caused it. I try to analyze if they caused it. Doesn't mean I did or didn't, but I think people should just look at it as healthy. Just be accountable, just look at it, and you grow and get bigger and better. And so that's who I am. That's how I treat everything.
I'm retired military, and I didn't go through 600 psych questions.
It's a lot. They got to make sure you don't go crazy after this thing. It's a thing.
Yeah, because I would say, with all seriousness, that given and I'm a retired combat soldier. I've been there, smelled the smoke, got the t-shirt, right?
Okay.
Stress, I am used to. But that is a level of personalized
It is.
stress
Yeah.
that is equivalent, can create the same symptoms as PTSD from returning warriors. And so I would like to ask, in creating this book, we come back and we go through like the immersion therapy. Oh, tell me the situation. Okay, listen to you tell me the situation. Now tell me the situation again. Now tell me, what did the air smell like?
Yes.
That kind of process, right? So as you were building, you've been betrayed. So now what? As you were going through your own like immersion therapy and repeating and reviewing, how long was that process? And really, maybe if you wanted to share, one of the most difficult, sessions with yourself
Mm-hmm.
as you put this to paper.
That's such a fantastic question. And I'll share something with you that I haven't shared before. I didn't even think I would have to, but I give it to you because you just asked me that. I think it's a really good question. Um, I struggle with sometimes with knowing what my second book would be because I'm like, what do people want to hear from me? I think every author goes through that. Is it business? Is it marketing? Is it branding? And then I felt the need to write something personal. I met with my team, my business partner, things like that. And when we ran across this title, I knew this was it because I started tearing up.
Mm.
And I didn't know why. I asked my business partner, I said, why am I tearing up? He said, because this is the book. That's why. Like your whole life, you've been betrayed from birth. And he knows me over 20 years. So he said, you remember this, you remember that, you remember that, you remember this. And I'm like, whoa, he's absolutely correct. Some people may call it, oh, I was disappointed at a situation, or this person let me down, or I got cheated on, or this or that. Some people might think that, but it's all betrayal in one word, betrayal. And so I decided that let me be honest. After that, I'm like, let me be honest and go through my real situations, my real relationships, my real pieces to let people into me, which was difficult because I'm private. But I'm like, I think I owe that to people because a lot of people saw me on TV and thankfully they tend to really like me, but they don't really know me. Right. So I'm like, let me use my pain and tell them how I become who I am and how it can help you. And I'm excited also the audiobook is coming with it as well because I'm actually going to act out these scenes at the top of every chapter so people can hear the actual betrayals. And then we're going to go into the chapter and you can learn the lesson. And so in this point, I'm just using all of my creative ability and I think I'm like Kanye West the situation and really just.
I'm with that. I'm with that.
You know how he kind of uses his brain with concert shoes. I'm like, I wouldn't call myself an author, but I am very good creatively. So let me apply that skill. And a lot of people don't either know not to go off path, but I'm even dyslexic as well. So the way I see things is different. So to me, I wouldn't just do an audio book. It has to be the way I want. It has to feel like a movie, the way I would want to do it. I wouldn't just write a book. It has to be sensory, like my real story. I want you to feel it and see it as you read it. And so with this book and even others, I want every reader to have an experience to say, wow, I got a little piece of LaVon. I learned how he got through it. So when they see me again or talk to me or ever meet me, they'll know exactly what they're looking at. Life isn't easy, but you got to get through it and still stay who you are and be authentic.
Wow. What a level of trust you have, in the audience supporters, what I mean? And also, I would say a level of trust that you have the bandwidth to absorb the energy and emotions that are going to be shared with you by people who receive the book. Human energy,
Real.
mostly is a real thing.
Right. Right.
How have you prepared yourself for this? Because this book is different. And like you said, as you hear a lot of musicians or artists talking about, I delved into my pain and I brought that forward to share because I'm not alone. Just some people may not be able to know what connector words need to be in the sentence to give it the most impact.
Right.
So how did you prepare yourself? How did you clear space to get ready to store that energy and let that rebound in a positive manner moving forward?
You said something really good there about the public. I'll start there. I learned something by being on TV. The public is very smart. When you're able to sit back and look at, and you may be able to relate to this, when you look at comments and things to the masses, they're very intelligent. They normally see the truth more than they think about certain situations. And so I learned to trust that. And then when I did the research, again, 7 out of 10 people experience betrayal. And I went down the rabbit hole of what that means. And I'm like, even though this is private, close to the vest, and a lot of these chapters teared me up writing them, I'm like, a lot of people got to know, because even statistically, a lot of people go through it. Like a lot of people don't know how to effectively communicate, how conflict resolution, when are you being too nice? When is it a good time to say no? What's the answer for being betrayed? I'm like, a lot of people go through this and don't have the actual answer. And so I essentially just locked myself away. There was a time I was in my office for 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. running my business, and I would be excited to get to the book because it was a form of therapy. And as I got through the book, there was a time where I saw my therapist every day for 2 months, every single day. And I said, you know what, while I'm writing this book, digging into some of my life, I want to ask you questions so I can statistically be right or psychologically be correct and help me figure out things about myself. So this book is my real life. And so every chapter is a format of my real story. And I have a second part of the chapter in which I call like a diagnosis of what you just looked at. And then the third part is, all right, how do we come out of this thing whole, pure, authentic, right? Because a person today could get cheated on and it can turn them into a toxic asshole, they could. Or you can get cheated on and realize, you know what, that person has issues committing, had nothing to do with me. It existed before I got here. I just need to improve my vetting process, whether that means being more patient, choosing another type of woman, this or that, and get out of it. These are ways that you leave the situation unbothered. You might still have a little trauma, but you leave out of that betrayal like that. And so each chapter has that format of, hey, real story, diagnosis, and this is how you do it. Because a lot of people say, well, get over it, this or that, but how do you do it? That's a different thing. How do you really get down and do the work? And it's a decision. It doesn't take forever to do it. You don't have to sit and hurt for 2 years. You can really do the work and be done in 45 days. Even though there'll be a little trauma, the work you have to do, who says it has to take a long time? Is really being honest with yourself, spend a little time alone, look in the mirror. When you decide, in that case, if you decide to date again, measure the level of trauma. If things tick you off, measure it, fix it, correct it. That doesn't have to take 2 years. It can take 2 months if you do the work.
Okay. So there is work that you have to do on yourself, with yourself, in the process. Now, interesting, and if I'm going too far, please let me know.
Mm-hmm.
So you indicated you were in a 15-year relationship. That meets me where I'm at. I've been married to this sister for 20 years.
Okay.
And then you're talking about the relationship with Evelyn.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not 15 years. So as you're writing the book, and I purposely haven't asked you, the reason for the termination of the first marriage. It's not my business. But as you're reviewing the earlier long term versus this shorter term,
mm-hmm.
were you comparing any similes between how you felt from the first one, maybe something that you carried over into the second one, some baggage,
Mm-hmm.
reflecting on that, and how did you process that and keep it truthful with yourself without the id?
True. I like the question. Yeah, I like the question. I think I was going to say no to that question and I thought about it. Yeah, I did. Right. And it was so deep inside, I didn't realize it. I think, but it's more on me than the women. Right. I realized in the first one, the things that happened that allowed us to sit down and separate, because some people could say, well, I'm embarrassed that I got divorced, or the marriage was a failure, or all these different kind of things. Right. But I think when a marriage ends, it's not always a failure or something to be embarrassed about. Sometimes I think if you're married for 15 years, I got married at 24, I think it was a success. The reason is we're two young people that decided to fall in love. We actually had about 8 or 9 years of that marriage. It was like great. We traveled, we built business, we got along, we went to like basketball games with friends, right? And then the last portion of it, we realized after my son was born, we just realized we were really different. And what I learned that I compared to the second one, and what I do in any relationship, is I didn't realize I didn't know how to lead properly being 24 years old. I was building a business, had a wife, had a kid, and I did a decent job, but I'm a much better leader now. And so what I tried to do in the second one is just lead better, be a bigger, better man, and things like that. And I always do that. I always evolve and do that. And so I never focus on, well, this woman did something wrong versus this one. It's just me. How do I show up bigger, better, and do this thing the right way? And if somehow it doesn't work, there's no reflection of my value. It just didn't work. And you just do the work and move on. So I knew that coming into the second one. I'm like, if it doesn't work, yeah, it's going to hurt. But yeah, the public is going to know. But I know the formula. Just do the work, no matter how long that takes, and move on. There's seasons to everything. And so that's how I treat everything.
Okay. I appreciate your patience with me. I know I've had you on here for quite some time,
Oh, let's go.
but
No.
such an amazing conversation, valuable conversation. And I'm learning a lot. Uh, like I said, I came back. I've been married 20 years,
Mhm.
and this is my fourth wife.
Mm.
So in making this work, thank God for her. Most of the time I was deployed, right? So she's like 20 years with this brother every day we might not have made it this far. But what I heard you say earlier in describing the healing process and the moving forward process, while not saying, oh, rush forward into the next situation, but do the work and be honest with yourself about the work you have to do with yourself. And there's really no time limit or season that a person should wait until they move on to the new romance chapter in their life. But should there be a moment when, like we talked about earlier, that full length mirror reflective moment where you say,
Mhm.
I've done the work, I'm
Yeah.
comfortable, and I'm confident I can move forward without harming myself or the other person mentally, emotionally. You know, can I really just give them and be fully present as I really am without bringing the extra drama? Did that
Mm.
question make sense?
Totally makes sense. I would just add to that. I think so. If we really think about what I'm about to say logically, no one can tell you how long anything should take. Even if I back it up, even when I got engaged, most people were like, well, it was 6 or 7 months. Is it fast? This or that. Reality TV dating isn't like normal dating. What happens in 6 months is like 3 years in real life, especially on the show. Because if you're here dating a young lady and you have 20 guys standing at you and they want her, you got to move real fast. You got to ask the real questions. You got to dig real deep, real quick. You don't have time to do what you would do in real life, right? So, and so what I would say is as people begin to progress and move, you can propose to somebody in 6 months and it can last a lifetime, right? I know somebody that proposed in 8 months and they're celebrating 35 years, but I also know people that dated for 5 years and they divorced in 6 months when they got married. So who's to say? And so when I look at healing, right, who's to say a person has to heal for 3 years or hurt for 3 years or take things out on the next person for 3 years? That's all about the personal work. You're just gonna take 3 years to do it, or you're gonna take a month to do it. Like what it is still self-reflection, it's still time with yourself, it's still therapy, right? It's still dating and testing, right? So how long do you want it to take? Most people delay it because we don't like looking at ourselves. We don't like being accountable. We don't like saying, maybe I caused the betrayal, maybe I didn't, just go down those rabbit holes. And even though it hurts, you get used to it and you find like, man, I'm much stronger and better, because of it.
Mm.
I talk a lot about being vulnerable too, which is important. And if you look up the definition of vulnerability, it's really opening yourself up and exposed to be hurt, right? That's really what it means. And so when you find the one that you want and you choose to be a little more vulnerable, I think if you're not vulnerable, you rob the person of an opportunity to get to know the real you and know how to treat you and what hurts you and what triggers you, right? But if you are, you can have something beautiful. You have a beautiful relationship because we're all open and everything's out in the open. But you can get hurt going back to your point in that process. And so you get conditioned to being hurt and being betrayed, and you'll find that you're stronger and you handle things a little better if you're not walking around afraid to engage with people. Because the book talks about business relationship, parenting. It talks about relationships, with women, things of that nature. So yeah, you got to be vulnerable in every area and just let the authentic real you out.
Okay. I only have a couple more questions.
Sure.
Music artists often talk about touching moments and engagements with fans and supporters who connected with their story, their music. Do you have one of those, highlight engagements that with a supporter that says, okay, I really am communicating well. I'm doing it honestly and it's being received and fed back to me. Do you have one of those highlight, maybe touching moments?
Yeah. I'll tie this answer back into one of the first things that you mentioned at the top of the interview, and that was talking about just being public and going through things publicly. And so the thing that I like that encourages me, and if anybody's listening, they'll know I get a lot of DMs, I get a lot of emails, get a lot of phone calls, text messages, things like that. I've even gotten people to, like, not me, but I've seen people blog about certain things. And when they look at the character of who I am and they big it up and they admire it, and since I was on TV, they expected something different. And they say, no, I'm glad that you're who you are and poised and polite and kind and handle things the way you handle them. That's what I like. And I have a lot of those stories. Even when I speak at conferences, people will stop me and say, hey, I like who you are. And some begin to say, you should write a book on it, man. I don't know how you handle things the way you handle them. Write a book on it. And so those things got me to this point. When, like, the way I could repay everyone back or share this message to the masses is to put it in something like this in audio and print format, so that people could you don't have to bump into me or DM me to get it. You can just get it. And hopefully over a lifetime, it helps millions of people.
Okay. If you had to encapsulate top 3 takeaways from this book, what would they be and the core thoughts behind it?
Good question. I would say top takeaways are to help people understand their value. One, sometimes, let's say if a person, there's a chapter in the book that talks about being kind of underestimated to a degree or unappreciated, right? So if a person sticks in something and they're underappreciated, that means there's a value problem. You don't know your value, right? And so people learn a lot about recognizing your value, whether people like it or not. People will learn a lot about boundaries. And that's, a cliche word, but it's really, what is a boundary, how to set them, what's the point of them, and how can it enhance your life? And then 3, I think people will learn the power of being vulnerable and authentic. There's really just power in being who you are, man. What I've learned about being public is kind of like when people think, whether it's in the hundreds, dozens, or the millions, a thing, it's just really everybody's opinion. People really don't know you or how you're built the way you're built. And so what's important is just your circle, the people around you, your mom, your dad, your uncle, your wife, your husband, those kind of people. So it's really those type of things that people can take away. And I feel like if we take those three things away, we'll have a pretty powerful person that understands his value, his boundaries, his strengths, his authenticity, and he stands in that beyond any betrayal. Because again, 70% of people have experienced it. So you're going to continue to experience betrayal, but now you'll know how to recognize it, see it, navigate it, and heal from it. And that's the whole point of the book. So that's why it's called You've Been Betrayed, So What Now? The so what now is the most powerful part. It's like, what are you going to do? You're going to be toxic or are you going to be a good person? Like, what are we doing? And if so, you can believe in love, faithfulness, and loyalty, which is the subtitle, but it's really when things happen to us in life, what now? Like, what are you going to do about it? And I say, choose to be a good person.
When is the book set for release?
It's set for release in April.
Okay.
We'll have an exact date soon. They can get it at you'vebeenbetrayed.com. And then the site will continue to update when we get the exact date, but yeah, April. So, we have to do finish out this great audio book. So.
That. And I'm sorry, Leslie, but he keeps sparking more questions and I.
Let's go.
Shout out to Leslie Tops, who
absolutely
an amazing PR professional, been working with her for years, has some of the most interesting and valuable personalities she brings. I love it. So I was going to follow with, because of Leslie, you have probably been interviewed by now almost everybody, their cat, uncle, and dog in the media. Is there a question that we in the media have skipped over, neglected, or failed to ask that you might have wanted to address Is there something we're missing as a collective?
Wow, that's a good question. I think you and the media have done a very good job. I mean, it's really breaking down, with the platform that I'm on now, just really breaking down the mechanics of just how to navigate the public, how it was done, going from private to public, that transition, and just still remaining authentic to self. So, I don't know the exact question, but those type of things are really, really good because it's something that I've seen that a lot of people actually want to know, and I'll say it one-on-one, but it's something that people want to know.
Okay. Well, I promised I wouldn't get too deep into your business. I just want to recap that, this conversation is, about a man who met himself again through this process of writing this book. You've been
That's
betrayed.
amazing. That's true. Never
So
thought about it. It's true.
now what? And he's sharing, 10 amazing lessons for those who still believe in love, loyalty, and faithfulness. Because you've had a bad experience doesn't mean that you quit, give up, and bury yourself deeper inside yourself, forgetting that you have some value to others and to yourself. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. I think it's an amazing collection of lessons that we need to talk about, and that in order to navigate the nonsense in the world and the results and consequences of babies raising babies, there are lessons that need to be relearned, and you can only do that if you can sit still or listen to someone who sat still, did the research inside, laid it out for you, and said, this was my way. This worked for me. Here's some options for you. And here's some core, tools and resources for you to use for yourself to get through it. I could see it as an inspiration and a ignition point for people who may be struggling through the mental health struggles that come with situations such that are described. You're dealing with not only yourself, your personal baggage, but how you view the world and its reception or treatment of you. We can come out of the blame game, go into accountability, and say, this is how we proceed forward. Maybe not a perfect roadmap, but a roadmap of someone who has successfully come out at the end of this journey safely.
I would add this to it to really answer that question. The first part of that. So I talk about a situation where, when I went public on TV, I had a friend that at one time I actually helped pay his bills. Him and his wife, they needed a place to live. They actually lived with my ex-wife and I one time before, just totally on the back end, didn't tell anybody, loyal kind of thing. And when this came out, he was kind of sharing some data to the public. Oh, the relationship isn't real, this or that, all these kind of things. And that's one situation where when you go through things like this, that I want people to know, I don't respond emotionally. I don't respond quick. I don't know if a therapist would tell you this, what helps me, I actually sit in the pain for a while because I want to understand the pain. I want to understand how it feels. I want to recognize it, and I don't want it to hurt me to that degree again. And so with me, if someone were to do something to me today, I might not say anything for days, hours, weeks, months, however long. I may not say anything until I understand what happened. And if that means I have to cry in the process, if that means I got to laugh, I got to talk to people, I would tell people, when you get hurt, don't be afraid. Sit there for a second, feel it. Go through the emotions. Don't deny the emotions. And when you get out, you can accelerate. That's how I've accelerated my process. I sit, and then when I get out, I understand everything, and I go from there. And I'm that much healthier to the next person.
What an amazing way to spark dialogue about healthy representations of Black men in these types of situations. You've been betrayed, so now what? Get ready to go do some work. The brother has brought the challenge. Y'all can TikTok challenge all you want to, but we need to do a self-improvement challenge. How do you become a productive person and citizen for yourself and your personal community, a citizen of your family, a citizen of your local community or groups that you may belong to, or business? Because you know this nonsense have folks jumping out of windows. And so we're going to dial in. How can people find you on social media? Already we know that the book has its own site, you'vebeenbetrayed.com, but how do they get to LaVon Lewis?
They can get to me with, of course, you'vebeenbetrayed.com, or they could go to LaVon Lewis, LaVonLewis on Instagram, or my branding company, brandingconnected.com. So either one of those ways, you can send me a message. It will get to me. I'll get it. Even on you'vebeenbetrayed.com, if you want me to speak, host, podcast, what have you, we can do that. So that's how you can reach me.
All right, everybody. The Hype Magazine live sessions, LaVon Lewis, an amazing individual. I say amazing, not because I know him personally, but as we've had this conversation, he has peeled back some layers and described some of the work that he went through. It takes intestinal fortitude to deal with yourself. I know I'm a Gemini. There's 36 of me, and I'm confused every single day. I got to work with everybody every day to get through today. So thank you so much for being on. I hope that you'll come back again after the book is released and we, see it, because I know you're going to do something incredible as a creative director. This is not going to just be one of those that hits the shelves and goes away. And I would love to talk about next projects, anything that you want to talk about, especially as a now a new subject matter expert on the pain of the Black man relationship pain, relationship dynamics.
Sure. I tell you what, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you. I would definitely be back. But yeah, I've enjoyed talking about, healing relationships, all the dynamics of it. So it's going to be fun. It'll be a fun ride. The book
all
is
right,
fun.
everybody. Hype Magazine live sessions, LaVon Lewis, You've Been Betrayed, So Now What? Look out for it in April. And go to his site, because he is a speaker, and listen to some of the samples, how he presents, and book this brother, because we need our next generations to have this big brother type education and connection. All right. Until next time.
As an artist, we should reflect the time.
Why you so talented?
Cause I'm Black.
Why you so amazing?
Cause I'm Black.
It's really important that we build characters so that people understand their story matters.
2 Chainz and I both are just really into good food.
And when you know you are royalty, you will only aim in life to be royalty.
We're doing it right now. I don't give a damn what they say about me. Yes, I called your ass out. I know I shouldn't be saying this kind of.
Shout out the Hype Magazine Network.
Shout out to the Hype Magazine Network.